Solid wastes are the discarded leftovers of our advanced consumer society. This growing mountain of garbage and trash represents not only an attitude of indifference towards valuable natural resources, but also a serious economic and public health problem. Good evening and welcome to Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around waste management. 2 weeks ago, there was tragedy in Sri Lanka. Over 30 people were killed following the collapse of a garbage dump. They had to pay the ultimate price. They were engulfed by your garbage. What is the future? Many apartments are now being constructed. There is a competition now in Sri Lanka as to who is constructing the tallest building. Where is the waste of these buildings going to be dumped? We're talking about a financial city. We're talking about the Colombo port city. Where is the dump going to be? Where is the garbage going to be dumped? We're talking about over 100 hectares of land. If this is the case, where is the garbage going to be dumped? Big question marks in the mind frame of the general public of Sri Lanka. We invited a representative of the Colombo port city to attend today's discussion. Until this morning, 10:30 a.m., it was a yes. However, unfortunately, this morning at 10:30 a.m., we were notified that the representative will not be attending the show tonight. I don't know why, but I hope he or she had the best reasons not to come on the show and keep you, the public, informed of the future of the Colombo port city. So what happened as far as the Mithramilla garbage dump issue is concerned? What is the future? What steps will the government take? And what is the advice we have for the government who is in power right now? To discuss all this and more, we have with us inside the studios four eminent personalities. Let me introduce them to you. Joining us this evening is Mr. Kesarao Gunasekara, former Member of Parliament, former Deputy Mayor of the Devala Mountain Division Municipal Council. Nice to have you on board, Mr. Gunasekara, as always. Also joining us this evening is Dr. Sujata Gamage, Researcher, Policy Analyst, Solid Waste Management. Thank you very much, Dr. Gamage, for joining us this evening on the show. Also joining us this evening is Mr. Arjuna Sriratna, Director of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. Nice to have you on board, Arjuna.
Pleasure.
Also joining us this evening is Engineer P. Suresh, Additional Secretary, Minister of Megapolis and Western Development. Nice to have you on board as well. So let's start off tonight's show with Mr. Kesarao Gunasekara, former Member of Parliament, also former Deputy Mayor of the Devala Mountain Municipal Council. What went wrong, Mr. Gunasekara? We're now crying over spilt milk. But it's always good to reflect of what happened in the past before we move forward. What went wrong as far as Mithramilla garbage issue was concerned?
Well, if I speak the truths, I do not know what the reaction is going to be. I don't think anything went wrong. This was expected, because when you pile up tons of garbage, initially the pressure will be vertical, and if there is no movement vertical, then naturally it will be the other way. That's all that happened. Because whenever there is rain, the lower level gets disturbed. And the pressure on top makes things to move in whatever direction it moves. That's all that happened. Of course, there is this argument that is being put forward with regard to methane gas as well, that also could have contributed towards this debacle.
So you're saying that this was expected, the government didn't do much?
I fundamentally feel that there were many more things that the government could have done, because piling up garbage or if you call it landfill is not going to be the answer, because you need to understand that Colombo alone generates around 1,500 metric tons of garbage every day. Now, if you start piling them up, you don't need years. months will be more than enough to have a mountain of garbage.
What was the option for the government? Where could they have dumped the garbage?
Well, I think this problem has been there since the late 90s. But as to whether there was commitment for a sustainable solution to the problem, I don't think so. Because I realize that, of course, as there is this theory that with regard to garbage, you need to reduce, recycle, and reuse. But unfortunately, that is not going to work as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, because the amount of garbage is so massive. Therefore, you need to understand that incineration had to come in to the picture. Did we have incineration at all? No. So when you don't have incineration, your stockpile goes up, and that's all. It keeps on accumulating. At the end of the day, something goes wrong.
Mr. Gunasekara, some point the finger at the government, while the others point the finger at the people who were in the location. In your opinion, who is at fault?
Well, technically it's the government that is at fault. We have to understand that. Because the solution to the problem is the responsibility of the government. As to whether it is from the Western Provincial Council is a different question. But technically I feel it is the government that is responsible.
So the people who were living in these areas were living there even 10 years before the government decided to dump the garbage.
Some of them, not all.
So why did the people decide to stay on if they knew that it's very unhygienic for them, and if they knew that one day tragedy is going to strike them?
I don't think they thought on those lines. You must understand that when somebody gets a block of land, that is a treasure to them. Giving that up is not that easy. It's not. We can always say so many things, but it's not an easy exercise at all. That's why they continued, I feel.
What must the government do differently? What would they have done differently?
Well, as I said, they should have worked out a plan. Number one, the 3 R's into place, plus incineration, which they should have started at least 20 years back. We should have got somewhere.
Now everyone is pointing the finger at respective governments. Some say it was the Mahinda Rajapaksa administration that has to be blamed because it was 10 years ago that this dumping of garbage took place in Mitramulla. Some say that this government is responsible because they should have arrested the problem. Who is responsible?
The government is responsible.
Which government?
Whether it is the past or the present is immaterial. The government is responsible.
And ultimately the people had to pay the price.
It was tragic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesarral Gunasekara, a former Member of Parliament as well as a former Deputy Mayor of the Devil Mount Lebanon Municipal Council, has been on the show on many occasions and have voiced his opinion with regard to different subjects. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Mr. Gunasekara. I now move my attention to Mr. Arjuna Sinaviratna, Director of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. When people talk about the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency, they think that the agency was established just 2 years ago when the government was appointed. However, it was appointed, the establishment was instituted in the year 2005. Now, your role, the role of this institute is to ensure that there is policy in place. Waste management, did they have a policy?
Well, I have to tell you this. The mandate of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency was to oversee strategic enterprises of the state. And these were in transport, in water, in logistics, in finance, and various of those things that were critical and crucial, power, energy, which were crucial to the government. But the mandate has changed over the years. And right now, what the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency does is, while it does get involved in policy, it is also now involved in direct implementation. And part of that work is actually to do with the Sustainable Lanka program, or what we call the Sustain Lanka program, which is an initiative of the President's Office, which is going to be implemented over the next 3 years. And waste management is a crucial aspect of a sustainable era which we're trying to engineer for the country over a very short period of time. It's a challenge. Some people say that it is a bridge too far. But we believe that this is something that we need to do, and that we need to do it right now. Waste is something that has to be looked at from a very, how do you say this, from a very green perspective when you look at the sustainable era. Very crucially, we must understand, when you were introducing the program, you said the word dump about 11 times. I think that the word dump belongs to the industrial era, which is no longer there. In that era, dumping, or what we call sanitary landfills, was the means of getting rid of something that was essentially a problem. And they did not see that there was anything useful about this. But in the sustainable era, waste is critical. It is a very important resource on the one side. On the other side, one of the mandates of the sustainable era is to reduce the amount of waste that is being generated. We must initiate on the one side a mechanism to use existing generated waste very well, and on the other, we must have a mechanism of gradually reducing this.
Arjun, you speak of very eloquently about the government's vision for a sustainable era, which was launched by the President on the 2nd of January 2017, that is this year.
Yes.
He articulates that everyone needs to unite to bring in a system of good governance in place to ensure that there is sustainable development in the country. So you all did not envisage what's going to happen to Mithramula. That was which part of the priority list was the Mithramula garbage dump was on, as far as your agency was concerned?
This is something that has been there for a long time. This is a tragedy waiting to happen. It was not as if it was not anticipated. It was not as if it was something that was going to go away in a hurry. And it is never was for a sustainable engineer, if you may, or a team of engineers who were trying to engineer a sustainable era. It was never something that was far off the radar. What we were trying to do is to look at this in sort of like, doing what we call shotgun treatment of it, to try to see whether there was a process, a durable process, very specifically, that was capable of reducing this over a period of time, reducing the amount of garbage that was being generated over a period of time, and then making use of what was there.
Don't you think on the 2nd of January 2017, if you all decided, if the government decided that there needs to be a shotgun mechanism to address this issue at hand, if that was the case, this tragedy would not have happened.
If that were the case, then
some mechanism, some action should have been taken then to save the lives of over 30 people who died on that day.
I would agree
on the 14th of April 2017.
Well, if there was a shotgun treatment of the problem for a mountain of the size of Mithramula, which could have done this in like 2 days or 3 days or 1 week or 2 months, you will have to tell me, because I wouldn't know if
I have an option. Why not remove these people from this location immediately and provide them with alternative houses?
Now,
Isn't that a solution?
as the previous speaker has said, the land that they have is very important to them. When you give somebody a piece of land, they're not going to shift in a hurry. And when you look at the state has
and the government gives only 15,000 rupees for these people to move. Would someone accept 15,000 rupees to move out of a particular location? Is that enough?
I don't think that is enough for anything. But then if you look at all the roads that are being created on the in Colombo, the expansion of the roads, and the same type of thing is being done there, everybody who is asked to shift is going to resist shifting. That is the key point that you need to cognize. The fact that somebody who is stabilized in a particular place, in Sri Lanka especially, is not going to move in a hurry. They are going to fight this. If you look at the roads,
why not tell them that they might have to pay the ultimate price with their life, and create proper awareness and remove them and give them some substantial money? Tell them this is not going to work and remove them, even forcibly if it has to happen. Why not do it? Why wait?
Okay, very, 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 very simply, there is this one factor that you must understand.
What is this factor?
And that is that when you're looking at a people's and a process of state, and you're looking at the way in which the state is going to respond to all of the mechanisms, all of the processes, all of the problems, all of the questions that all of the people in the country have, you're going to have to look at all of them in either you can look at them as a shotgun thing, or you can look at them as something that needs to have been addressed far earlier and is not being addressed, so we have to address it now. That is not the way to look at this. The way to look at this entire program or the entire state machinery and its engagement with the people is to see how it will be able to take all of these issues and work on them. For example,
and then
if you
take
look at
a reactive approach to it.
Now, supposing now you look at this. Now, if you look at all of the, let us say the I think it was last year when there were torrential rains and there were landslides. What happened? A lot of people died.
And the government still didn't learn a lesson out of it.
And at that point, can someone tell us, okay, all of these areas are vulnerable, so we have to remove everybody shotgun?
But
no,
this
I
was
don't
very
think that
clearly
that
said.
is.
You're talking about the torrential rains, okay. The National Building Research Organization said that these people have to be removed, and they did not evacuate from that particular location, and they were not provided with alternative houses. They were said you have to move because it's raining, so you have to be given temporary housing by the government itself. Now we're talking about a garbage dump issue. These individuals were there. It was their land. And the government decides to dump the garbage in this location. And then you say that we need a durable solution to it.
Exactly.
And then people had to pay the ultimate price with their lives.
I would say that in the way in which you couch the question, and in the way you say, okay, for every problem, we need to have an understanding of exactly how dangerous the problem is in terms of human lives, and then move and shift the people away from a particular type of vulnerability situation, or what we call a disaster situation. In which case we are looking at disaster situations not only at Mithramulla, but in every other place. There are lots of threats of this nature in this country, and I'm not saying that the people at Mithramulla are any less important to the state and the government. In fact, I would say that because of the fact we generated the garbage, that we were the murderers, not even the state.
Thank you very much.
In that sense, you'll have to look at yourself and say, okay, to what extent did you contribute to a problem that the government has been now told to solve? You must also look at how you could have reduced your culpability in that problem, instead of looking at the state and saying, hey, state is responsible for everything. I don't think it is. It is only responsible for some things, and there are certain other things for which responsibility has to lie firmly with the citizenry of the country.
Thank you very much, Arjuna Selvaratna, Director of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. I now move my attention to Dr. Sujata Gamage, Research Policy Analyst, Solid Waste Management. Dr. Gamage, there was a program in place by the government, by the municipal councils in Sri Lanka. I still recollect 5:30 a.m. in the morning, you have those collecting garbage coming and knocking on your door saying, okay, now is the time for you to give the recyclable waste. And then you have them coming again at around 10 o'clock in the morning and saying, okay, this is the time for you to give the bottles away, which is not recyclable. Now my question is very simple to you. Arjuna says that people are responsible for this garbage dump. Do you think that it's the people who are responsible? Is the government which is responsible, or is the people who are responsible? Tell me.
I actually disagree with Arjuna. My garbage, some of my garbage ended up in Mithramulla, but I don't think myself as responsible. Because I've done what I was told to do. Because there are different levels of government, and we are supposed to do different things. We expect our local authority to tell us when they collect the waste and how they collect. And we've done what they told us to do. And local authorities, they collect the waste. And there's a very simple adage, rule in solid waste management, or whenever you move massive amounts of unpleasant material, before you pick up, know where you're going to, what you're going to do with it, which we call final disposal. Local authorities can pick up, transport, but once they have it, remember, this is what we put out. When we put it out, it's already stinking, partly stinking. They have to put it somewhere. But local authorities do not have the capability for final disposal. Final disposal always has to be done at a larger provincial or national level. So if anybody dropped the ball, I think at this point, it is at the provincial level or the national level when they should have provided for final disposal.
And Dr. Gamage, you are trying to say that that is why the people of Sri Lanka pay their taxes to the government, to the local authorities.
Absolutely. And I think whenever, this is the third time, we talked about municipal council coming and telling you to do various. This is the third time, if I recall, in the last 10 to 15 years that they did this. Every time our officials, just because somebody kicked them in the butt or somebody, they start doing this. But they don't think about, okay, once you pick it up, what do we do with it? So there are no final disposal plans. The final disposal plan, I think the previous governments actually thought about this. I'm not sure whether it was the Rajapaksa government or before we established a waste management authority for the Western Province. That was very smart thinking. Let's not try to do the whole country, let's tackle the Western Province.
Let's do a pilot project first.
Not a pilot project, waste management authority with the authority to manage the waste in the Western Province. They just could not, I think waste management authority is not here, but we know why they could not do it. They just did not have the authority. The political authority was over them and the political authority was not interested in really doing anything. Recently there was a video clip, I don't know whether you've seen it. The Chief Minister, then Chief Minister of the Western Province, threatening the Director General of the Western Management Authority over some other incident. But you can see that they did not have any authority to do anything. In paper they had, but in practical terms they just could not. So the Waste Management Authority fit, then that's clear why they could not, because they could not themselves get a final disposal site. It's all about the final disposal. If the national government or the provincial government had a final disposal, I'll talk more about what final disposal means. Final disposal site, none of this would have happened. Mitotamolu should not have been a final disposal site. It's right in the middle of the city. We had Dompe. Dompe was already established. But you can't take the waste to Dompe, it has to be treated properly before it's. So that is part of the final disposal. These things were not happening because the Waste Management Authority, which was supposed to do that, they did not have the authority to bring together all the actors. There were several actors. For example, last week I was in a program at ITN, where Mr. Marikar and Mr. Kesarlal was there. And he read out the letters, he brought a whole bunch of letters he wrote to various people. And every letter is copied to about 10 people. Waste Management Authority, Chief Minister of the Western Province, Minister for Local Government and Provincial Councils, and lately Minister of Megapolis, Urban Development Authority, Central Environment Authority. So, but the Waste Management Authority could not bring all those people together. So I think the government is distracted. I think at the first 2 years, what we should have realized is the Waste Management Authority, even if you take the Western Province, they can't do this. You really need a cabinet level appointment, cabinet level oversight of this, because somebody should have the authority to bring all these people together and say, let's now work on a final disposal site for the Western Province. Final disposal is, once you pick up your waste, you can do two things. First, you have to do the treatment to that. Even that, any municipal council can't do it by themselves. CMC can't do the treatment part. They don't have enough space. They have to go to some other area outside of the CMC. So you can't blame the CMC, you can't blame the people, you can't blame the CMC. It should be the Western Province, but the Western Province did not have the authority, so we really need a cabinet level authority to bring all these stakeholders together.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sujata Gamage, researcher, policy analyst of solid waste management. We did invite a representative of the Solid Waste Management Authority. However, at around 8 p.m. Today, I was told that he too refused to attend today's show, citing the individual in question was ill.
But I don't think that would have made a big difference. He would have said the same thing. They just did not have, they were called authority, but they did not have the authority.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gamage, for your thoughts in the first round. I now move my attention to Engineer P. Suresh, Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development. I want to talk a little bit about, before getting an approach to the subject at hand, what is the objective of your ministry?
Yeah, well, I listened this three conversation. I'm happy actually. People knows little about waste management. And first, before coming to your question, actually, I agree with my friend, because each and everyone should be responsible for this. Each and everyone, even including you media, all should be responsible. Then I'm coming to you. So your question is based on...
What is the objective of your ministry?
Yeah, our ministry's objective is to, this with the generation of people and the opportunity of work, people are coming to Colombo, to the Western Province. Mm-hmm. So it is unexpected development without planned city. Therefore, government decided to go for megapolis development with the expansion of the land with the development. That is the purpose, including all these three districts.
Your minister, Minister Partly Champik Ranawaka, is seen these days very much in the media. Seen opening up apartments that are 47 floors, 46 floors, twin tower apartments, you name it. And you are telling that the people of Sri Lanka are responsible. My question is very simple.
Yeah.
Where is the waste from these apartments going to be dumped?
Yeah.
Did the people want it?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Yes.
I'll tell you. Because this problem is not started yesterday or day yesterday. Mm-hmm. When people started coming to Colombo, this problem started. In 80s, this problem started. 90s, it was severe. The incremental of waste is actually only annually 5%, 6%. Where this problem starts? Because from 90s, 80s, all these government agencies talking about 3 years. Reduce, reuse and recycling. But our waste have more content of water other than Western countries. We have 60 to 70% of water in our waste. Simply we are saying 1,600 metric ton produce. Out of 1,600 metric ton, calculate and see what is the water content, moisture content. So each and everyone should think about it. So if you add water with the waste, so it goes.
Okay, let's say water is not there in the content. Let's it's a hypothetical question, but you have so many apartments coming up now.
Yeah.
This government probably might not even be in power in 2.5 years' time, sir. They might not be in power to see where the waste is going to be dumped. What is the system in which these wastes are going to be discarded?
Yeah, first of all, I'll have to tell.
Where is it going to be discarded?
Yeah, that's what. First, I'll have to give some more information before coming to that question.
Yeah.
In 98, 99, this problem was critical, because even the Blumenthal was. I was not in the ministry, but I gathered some information. Blumenthal was peak, right? So no land to dump this waste immediately. So ex-government actually started a project actually, where these limestones were harvested from Putlam for cement. So this project was started and a lot of things were done. Parallelly, because immediately they need the land, therefore, actually by the cabinet paper, with court order actually, the UDA has given 2 acres land from Mithotamulla. But it is expanded in 2016 to 22 acres. Total UDA land was used for that. So I'm coming to that question now. So 2003 this proposal came, Mithotamulla proposal came, and all the designs were completed by the project called Metro Colombo Waste Management Project. What happened was, so the land which was selected, close to the wildlife in Putlam. There is a wildlife in, this park, famous park, close to called Bilpattu Park, right? So this, unfortunately, this land, identified land, was within the buffer zone. So then government actually prepared, then government that project, under that government project team prepared the report and submitted to EIA. Submitted EIA and EIA report to Environmental Authority, Central Environmental Authority. Then it should be published to public. Then lot of protests came.
So let's make it very short,
Yeah.
Mr. Suresh. I know there were plans afoot as far as solid waste management was concerned since the late 1990s and early 2000s. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have a plan.
We have plan.
What's the plan?
Yeah, that's what I am coming to tell.
What's the plan now?
So this is 1,200 metric ton waste
Okay.
should be transported to Pudlam. That is one project.
Okay.
So you asked
When
one
is this
question.
going to be materialized?
That's what I am coming to tell. So that's what I have started. You have interrupted.
Yeah.
So then there is an alternative. There are big three
No,
cavities.
you speak about, let's go about one by one. You
Yeah.
speak about the Putlam project,
Yes.
phase 1.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Okay.
Okay, when is that going to be implemented?
Yeah, that's what I am coming to tell
Yeah.
you. So, because of that issue, wildlife issue, the alternative land was selected. Now, studies are going on.
That's not yet in the cards for the government.
No, it is in the card of the.
Okay, so when is it going to be implemented?
Yeah. So I can even show you
Give
some.
me a rough date.
Yeah, a rough date mean actually
2000
even
when?
it was discussed with the president.
When? Okay.
It was last Friday. It was discussed.
Okay, last Friday was discussed because the Mithimula garbage issue came up.
No, it was throughout, even with the Prime Minister number of times, because of the approval.
Okay, so when is it going to be implemented?
Yeah, that's what I want to tell you
Yes, tell me. I'm listening to you.
now. Yeah, I want to tell you now because environmental authority should give the approval according to the law, which is actually right.
So there is no particular date.
No, that's what now our ministry
it's very
has.
simple.
Our ministry has
Yeah.
requested IEE.
Right.
That is actually little easiest process.
Mr. Suresh, my question is very simple to you, okay? You all have plans in mind.
Yeah.
I agree with you, okay?
Yeah.
You have plans in mind, you know exactly what to do. You say that the Putlam is the first phase, you have the Central Environmental Authority giving you all the clearance, you all don't have a set date for it. I understand, there's no issue with that. But if there is an issue, if you all don't know when this is going to be materialized, why give clearance to put up so many apartment complexes in Sri Lanka? Why give clearance for even the Port City project if you all don't have a system in place?
Yeah, I'll come by one. I have written your questions.
Yes.
I'll come by. First, I will finish this one. So
Yeah.
you ask when it will be started.
Yes. When is it going to be implemented?
Yeah, because even 3 months before. We
No, I don't want to know what
No,
happened.
that's
in the
what I
past.
wanted
I'm asking a very simple question.
Yeah, it's
Mr. Suresh.
you
When
can
is it going to
expect.
be?
You can expect within 3 to 6 months. You can see the difference.
Right. So 3 to 6 months, you see a difference.
Construction will be started.
Construction will begin. When is it
Yes.
going to end?
Then physical progress of the transport will take 2 years.
So you're going to say 2.5 years will take place for the physical transportation of the garbage in question.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you are saying even without a proper system in place, the government is going ahead with constructing the Port City project, which is going to come up in a few years.
I didn't tell you that.
Then you have the apartment complexes that are going to be built. Where is this waste going to be dumped?
So when this,
Is there a program in place, yes or no?
yeah. So then
Is
what
it,
happens?
is it
I'll tell
without
you.
even, very simple, Mr. Suresh,
There are-
you
there
all
are-
don't even have a proper system in place.
Yeah,
You all don't even know exactly what to do. And if that is the case, how does all these development projects come into play?
Yeah,
Very simple.
I'll answer one by one. So first, you should understand our ministry is not right. Legitimately, we are not given any authority to do solid waste. That is one. Number one. Number two, because of the megapolis development, right? We were assigned to do long-term project. We were given long-term project by CCEM, you know, that is headed by Prime Minister in 2016 January. So we have identified 3 projects. One is for, actually Metro Colombo solid waste project Putlam 1200. but Colombo produce 1,600. Therefore, we need another project. That's what we calculated. So we have given land to one company called Western Power. We have given land, and they are working on approval. When approval is given, they have to start. Now they have to sign the agreement with CMC. That is one project.
Right.
I am talking only about the long-term project. Second one, the CMC only provide waste to supply waste to Meetotamulla, right? All other local authorities in the Colombo district actually supply the waste to Karadiana. So Karadiana almost 500 metric ton, 450 to 500 metric ton waste are supplied daily. So for which actually another waste to energy project already we have awarded, and it will be signed by WMA because the waste management is handled by the local government.
Mr. Suresh, I need to interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
We'll give you an opportunity to delve deeper on the subjects at hand. I'm sure the two journalists on to my left, Sonali Vanigabadika, attorney at law, as well as Nadim Majid, will have ample questions being thrown to the panel for sure. A question to the public while you're watching the program. So you have apartment complexes coming up. What if the management of this apartment complex turn back and say, this is not our responsibility, it's the government's? Then where is the waste going to be dumped? There's a very big location very close to the Vanna oil. Probably that is the place. Let's start off with the two journalists. Sonali? From you,
thanks,
yes.
Sham. Dr. Gamage, my first question is to you. Now, as a society, we almost always tend to be very reactive in our approach and attentive to an issue after the damage is done. Examples that spring to mind are Miriyabadda, Meetotamulla, Aranayaka. For example, if we take the issue of natural disasters, every time there's a flood or a drought, we find that people start panicking, and the authorities also start acting after the situation has taken place. Now, there is very little disaster risk reduction, disaster resilience. My question to you is very simple. Why are we like this, and why do we keep repeating ourselves every single time? Why aren't we proactive when it comes to issues of national importance that have such drastic impacts?
Yeah. Before I answer that question quickly, I think we need to pay a little more justice to the Minister of Megapolis, at least the Minister himself. He's been very active, and I think he really embraced this opportunity to take leadership in solid waste management. And actually the Ministry recent 2 months ago brought this cabinet paper which awarding the contract to two waste to energy projects, which are going to be implemented in, it will take 3 years.
Definitely.
So the issue is now is how to manage these two time between now and until these projects come on. And I can answer that question on the apartment complexes also, but then that we can come to later. But to answer your question, why are we reactive? I think that's a very important one, because in solid waste management, I think we've been stuck in the we've been focusing on the wrong thing. People might be surprised to say that we've been focusing 3R and sustainability are two issues. I think that has really, we put our attention on those two aspects while forgetting the immediate management issues. Now, don't get me wrong, 3R is something I personally practice. From 1988, from my household, I have never sent bio-waste, food waste outside. My food waste has not gone to Meetotamulla, maybe my dry waste. So I reduce, reuse, recycle. But this 3R emphasis, actually I'm beginning to think, as somebody been a practitioner, and I did a major research project on 3R 2008 to 2010, and what I learned is that we are talking about sustainability and reduction while we are not paying attention to the immediate management issue. In solid waste, it's a stinky subject. It is the moment you generate, it begins to rot. So we really need to treat it, and what we cannot treat, we have to dispose. We have forgotten those two aspects of solid waste, which
So
is
who is to
treatment.
educate the consumer, the public, the general public? Ma'am, you are a professional. You are an expert in this area of solid waste management. So you do know about the 3R system.
Yeah, let me tell you. So what I'm saying is we've been focusing on educating the public, talking about reducing, when actually as a developing country, reducing is, we really will be consuming more. As we develop, we consume more. So we've been talking about reducing and sustainability and forgetting the management of solid waste, the immediate management. And our environmentalists in the 1990s, they were saying no, not management. We want reduction now. We want zero waste now. We want to recycle now. And we said no, we can't have landfills. We want recycling now. But recycling and landfilling has to go together as part of the management. So we forgot about the management and we are focusing on sustainability and reducing and recycling. So I think, interestingly, somebody who practices 3R at a personal level, but I think at a policy level, we need to focus on the management side first.
Whose responsibility is that?
Definitely, in the management side, there are two things. First is treatment and then disposal. In both cases, individual citizens can't do that by themselves. Local authorities can't do that by themselves. So we need a central authority. And I said Waste Management Authority was established, but they did not have the power. But actually, I think I'm happy to see the Minister of Megapolis is taking the leadership. So I think, Mr. Suresh, I don't think you did justice to your ministry. I think the Minister Champika is taking the leadership, and I hope he'll be given the leadership.
Ma'am, we're talking about the dissemination of this information, this technical information, which hasn't by now filtered down to the general public.
That's
that
not
is
the
main
issue. I'm saying in public, if you tell the public, we just said that, people, if you tell the public every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll come and pick up your food waste. That's all they need to know.
They already do it, by the way.
Exactly. And what happens is the local authorities, they start that, but once they pick up these things, they don't know what to do with it because they don't have the facility.
So whose fault is that?
That is the central government. Because the provincial councils, the Waste Management Authority was established, but provinces cannot do it by themselves. It's the central government's responsibility to provide for final disposal.
Mr. Gunasekara, you were former Deputy Mayor, Dehulla Mount Lavinia Municipal Council. Garbage collection is the responsibility of the local councils. You think of the central level of centralization in this country. Do you think that it's a hindrance to the local councils effectively carrying out this task? Do you think that you heard Dr. Gamagate say that the local councils are basically incapable of the task of waste management?
What she said was the final disposal, not the
final
collection.
disposal.
Not the collection.
But do you think that if local councils were more empowered, that if, for example, the Dehulla Mount Lavinia Municipal Council had the power to deal with its own waste, the waste generated within the municipal limits, if they had the power to enter into contracts with recycling companies, with waste
technically
management
I feel
companies,
so, and we were on that course where in
don't you think that further centralization of that issue makes it too big of a monster to handle?
But to some degree centralization is also required. But let me answer this question. In 2006 or 7, we went ahead with the acquisition of land at Kardiana, and that land acquisition was not for the Western Province Waste Management Authority. It was for 3 councils, that is Casbaba, Dehulla Mount Lavinia and Moratuwa, 15 acres each. And we were going to be tasked with the entire operation of garbage disposal. But unfortunately, at that juncture, maybe the Western Province thought that they would be in a better position to take this matter up. I don't blame them. And they took it over. And that's how it moved away from the local authorities. But I must tell you something, while listening to Mr. Suresh, I fundamentally feel, with all my years of experience, let me caution you all on one aspect. You got to understand this is a gigantic problem. I will say this because in 2007 or 8, when this dengue started spreading its tentacles, I told the health authorities, look here, we are groping in the dark, and this is going to hit gigantic proportions. And that is exactly what happened. I told them, I told the health authorities in no uncertain terms, we are groping in the dark, we are going to hit gigantic proportions, and that is exactly what happened. If anybody thinks that disposal of garbage to Puttalam is going to be the answer, I'm telling you once again, it's not going to be the answer. Maybe to a certain degree, but that is not going to be the final solution.
So what is the answer?
The final solution, you need to understand that incineration has to come in a big way. As to whether incineration, which has been envisaged as far as Karadiana is concerned, as to whether that is adequate enough, I don't think so. We need to concentrate on many areas. Reduce, recycle, reuse, that has to come into the picture, plus incineration. Mind you, in 1999, when we were in Parliament, we went to Germany, and we were there for 2 weeks with regard to so many programs. And one such exercise where we went was the incineration. In Germany, a developed country, a massive incineration plant which is fired only once, and 24 hours it burns and it produces energy. We asked a question about waste. They said, the head of that division said, yes, there is a problem, but we need to understand that this garbage needs to be incinerated. Otherwise, we're going to have a big problem in our hands.
Arjuna,
so with that itself, it's a very clear indication that a developed country like Germany was resorting to incineration. And if you do not resort to incineration in a big way, we are going to face the same problem.
Arjuna, do you think we need to resort to incineration in a big way? Do you think that the reduce, reuse, recycle mantra has failed? Do you think that the focus needs to be more on management? In short, do you agree with Dr. Gamage and Mr. Gunasekara?
Let me say that we don't have to import anything, including solutions, into this country. We can have the solutions in this country itself. We can create our solutions, and we can make sure that those work. That is the first thing. I understand that there are lots of ideas about, on the one side, there are issues about policy weakness, there are issues about the process to the final dumping place, there are issues about the process of making the waste usable, and there are issues about the primary generation point as well. And all of these need to be considered. You can't just look at one thing. You can't piecemeal, silo attack these things. Some people will talk about incineration, some people will talk about policy coherence, some people will talk about strengthening authorities. Each of these I see as being political silos, little silos in which you can work. But this is not how we must look at this thing in a sustainable era. In a sustainable era, we are looking at things in terms of a holistic treatment of this. Why I agree that there is a primary problem with the way in which garbage is collected and where it is finally destined to go. Only 1% of all of the garbage is actually recycled through municipal channels. I was speaking to the garbage collectors, it's not actually the Recyclers Association today, just before this program. And they were saying that they get all of their recycled material from the scavengers. And some of the key scavengers are the people who are actually collecting the garbage. And for them, it is not really useful for them to actually take our recyclable material that we have actually separated and give it to the recyclers. What they do is they put it together and then they scavenge it themselves and they get a little bit of money out of that. So we have to look at the garbage collector, solve the problem for the garbage collector on that side. On the other side, we have to look at, there are two things we need to do. As she said, we need to manage what we are generating, but at the same time, we need to reduce the amount that we are generating. One problem has to be solved in combination with the state and with regulators. On the other side, we have to have an engineering solution, something of the nature that is suggested by Kesrela. And waste to energy is one of those. On the third and most importantly, let us say, I was looking at this in terms of why of the question that Sonali asked. Why is it that we are so reactive to things? I will tell you why. Because we are voters. We are not citizens. If we are citizens, we will not simply vote for people. We will understand that our responsibility lies not, we don't even belong to this country only because we vote. We belong to this country because we execute our responsibility by it. And one of those things is to be able to reduce the amount of energy that we make. And we have solutions for this. Yes, it is a stinky problem, but we have a solution now. We tested it out at SEMA, where we were looking at how to take the solid, the organic waste and use rhizobial action and microbial action to immediately reduce the stink and use it as fertilizer in our own homes. And this has worked for us. And we have been practicing this over the last 2 years.
When is this system going to be implemented?
It is already there.
Right.
I think
already there.
I think what Sami means is, when is it going to be more broad-based?
The broad-basing has to be done by you and you and you.
Yes.
Not only by the state.
No,
We
so
have to do
SEMA,
it.
so SEMA
We
is-
have to be able
SEMA
to take our own
has
solid
this technology.
waste. We have to take our solid waste. We have to be able to take out the solid, the waste that we cannot actually use in our homes, reduce the number of times that we have to generate that waste. And at the same time, look at the organic waste which we necessarily have to, we necessarily do actually generate, and see how we can reuse that effectively in our own homes.
I want to ask you a question, Arjuna. Just prior to the polls, I recollect the present president stating that no polythene would be used for his campaigns. Do you recollect that?
I do.
Right. However, now, every quarter in the government, whenever there is an event, they use polythene.
And this is not good. I understand. There are four things that we need to knock out.
Then you say that there has to be an option. And this option has to come from whom?
The option is, number one, is look, everybody,
Who
if
should
you look at
execute
a
this option? Who
political
should implement
party,
this option?
the political party is a group, and that group has to take responsibility. I know that I think it was Honorable Champika's minister. I think Champika didn't use, as far as I'm aware, he never used polythene or plastic in any of his campaigns. And I think individuals have to take responsibility in those types of situations.
Why not put a complete ban on the use of polythene?
I would say, yes. Yesterday on Facebook, I was just asking everyone for a complete ban on four things. Number one, PET bottles. I'm so unhappy that we had a PET bottle here today. I don't like that. I never use these things now. I don't like the PET bottle. I wish we didn't have them. Number one. While we are talking about garbage, we're actually generating it here. This is going to go into a landfill somewhere. This is tragic. And I would have thought that you would have done something a little bit more sort of sustainable in that sense.
But
Number one. Number two is that we are looking at polythene. Number three, styrofoam. And number four, we are looking at the shopping bag. These four things are things that we need to have an immediate ban for. But you can't just ban them. We have to be able to have alternative solutions for what we call wrapping and packing. And wrapping and packing has been done before polythene came into the picture by our people, by our own local industries very well. Yes, granted, right now we have had urban congestion, we have had population increases, we have had garbage generation becoming higher because we have become tied to the market economy and there's so much more waste generated than we normally have.
I have a question
Yes.
for you, Arjuna. You say that you think as a citizen of the country, not just as a voter. Am I correct?
Let me say, I never voted for anyone in my life.
Right, you did not, but you think as a citizen of the country.
Of course.
Right. There was a PET bottle next to you. Okay. You open up the bottle and have a sip. Just now you just had a sip from that bottle of water.
Yes.
So are you exercising your right as a citizen of this
No,
nation?
actually not. I was thirsty here, right? And I wish I was going to bring this up. I was going to bring this up with you guys.
So
No, actually, it was very, very simple. Before
are you
I do
exercising
that,
your right as a citizen of this nation
I had to
before
tell
telling
you
us
this.
whether we are doing the responsibility
No,
of
actually
an
not,
organization?
because I was
Very good
thirsty.
question.
And the thing is this, I could have asked you all, I could have demanded from you all that you all give me a good container
No,
with
but
a
you
bottle.
just had a sip
But
of water from that glass which had water from the PET bottle, and then you had
Yeah, I wasn't going
Very
to...
convenient. Thank
very
you.
convenient.
Well, it was not convenient at all, but that is why I brought it up for you. I wanted you to take a look at that,
But if
and
you
I would
were,
like
if you were
to
a
see
citizen, if you were a
that,
citizen of this
please,
nation, if you thought that you,
I would rather have had you.
That was always an
I would rather
alternative.
have had you. I said I was very unhappy. I was very thirsty. If you were going to give me water, and you were going to give me water that was that I would require in order to be able to actually speak, without which I couldn't be able to speak, and you're going to only give me that, I'll have to drink that.
But how practical is that? You say that
It
if
is
I'm
very practical.
thirsty,
You could have
I
had a
will
glass
open a
bottle
bottle
here.
of water and then have
You
it.
could have had a glass bottle here. There was no problem about that. You could have done that.
You could have exercised that.
But if there was no option, you would just resort to whatever there is.
If I am dying,
and then you are.
And if you are dying,
yeah.
Are you going to sit around and
Obviously,
ask that question, or you're going to die?
About you dying right now.
No, actually, like right now, I was very thirsty. As I said, I was very thirsty, and because I was thirsty, I was going to get this. And I was just asking her, like, and she said this, and she was picking up this bottle.
I was glad it's a plastic bottle. If I kicked it and it broke, there would have been a problem.
Well, I wouldn't think that. I mean, this is where the issue comes up. Like, someone says, okay, we will take a plastic bottle and manage it, and the other person will say, don't have a plastic bottle at all. Two different ways of looking at this. I would say that we should not actually be using these types of...
So the question is very simple.
Exactly
are you fulfilling our responsibility as a citizen of this nation?
That is how I should do it. I mean, I wouldn't do it. In fact, when you look at my own home, when we're looking at my own home, like, we've been doing the same thing that you all do. My daughter, Indi, actually recycles. And she didn't understand it right at the start. But then when she does, she realized exactly what was going down. And, when it comes to tea leaves, she would put it in the flower pots. When it comes to a piece of paper, she would understand, okay, how much can I reuse this piece of paper before I put it into the garbage? And if you look at the number, as I was telling you all, just before the program, a person generates actually uses about 30 shopping bags of various sizes every week. And we did a bit of a test, and we found that people could reduce this to one shopping bag a week. This is not hard to do.
And you're doing this at home?
Everyone does it.
Are you doing this at home?
Yes. This is what I'm saying. And most of the time, like, I carry a big sort of a rucksack kind of thing with me wherever I go. I don't carry briefcases. In this rucksack, I can put everything I want. And for about now 3 or 4 months, just as a test, pure test, I've been seeing how much of the things that I buy.
Won't it be easy if the government puts a complete ban on
I would say that is very important. As I said, there are 4 things that you need to ban, and that is the PET bottle, the lunch sheet, the styrofoam packing, and this, and the shopping bag.
Thank you very much, Arjuna, for your thoughts in the first round. Before I move on to a short commercial break, a quick question to Engineer P. Suresh, representing the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development as Additional Secretary. Mr. Suresh, tell me the plan. You said that there was a plan that is going to be implemented by your ministry.
Yeah.
Tell me what the plan is.
So, the first one is actually you need landfill. Because even if you have incineration, right, there is a bottom ash around 5 to 10%. You must have, right, somewhere you must have a landfill. That should be sanitary landfill, right? That should be sanitary land, not like a dumping one. So now, as I told you, Gampa waste, we have already awarded contract, and Karadian, other than Colombo Municipal Council, we have awarded the contract. Colombo Municipal Council produced 1,600 metric ton, out of which 800 goes to Mitotamulla. 800 metric ton goes to Mitotamulla. Now, one project, 500 metric ton already we have allocated the land. So this is 3 projects. Now, you are talking about
apartments, luxury apartments.
That is, one is apartment, second one is
the Port City project.
Port City project actually going to produce 500 waste, right? 500 waste, and Megapolis plan is going to produce 800 metric ton waste, right? So I think it was not decided today. It was decided long time ago.
So 1,300 metric tons of waste.
Yeah, 1,300. That's what now our plan is. You understood now. Other area, 500 Karadiana for local authorities we are covering. But I am not talking about the short-term one, long-term one, because this was given to our ministry.
Okay, understood. I'm listening to you.
Right. Okay. So Colombo waste is the problem now. Colombo waste, 800 actually collected, but 1,200 actually produced in Colombo. 1,200 produced, but 800 only collected, right? So another 1,300 is coming in 2030. So our plan is actually Metro Colombo project, Puttalam project will take 1,200. One is now already awarded. Other one is another waste to energy project actually. Our minister already negotiated with so if I give you some more detail.
No, I don't want details. Tell me the timeline. Tell me how is this going to work? You said that
project
500 would be collected at the Karadiana.
That is okay. Karadiana.
500.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
what's going to happen to the rest?
Other one now.
Yeah.
This Arukadu is 800. Sorry, 1,200.
Okay,
right?
1,200.
But however it is, we are planning actually. These three projects were given to private agency.
Right. So 1,700, you have an option.
An option.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So what is happening to the remaining 800?
Yeah, remaining one. Our ministry is going to have a project, our own project, right? Collaborated with.
Let's say
Lanka Transformer Limited.
Okay. Let's say an institute. Okay. So how many?
It is another 500.
Okay, 500.
Right?
Okay.
And Port City is going to have their own, not only Port City.
So there's still a minus of 300.
I'll tell you, Port City is going to have 500, and all other cities actually now, you know, Megapolis already planned administrative city Bataramulla, and Port City is.
What's happening to the rest of the 300 tons of garbage?
Yeah. 1,200 is going to Putlam.
Understood. 1,200 Putlam, 500 Karadiana, and that's a total of 1,700. Then you have 500 going to the Ministry of Megapolis and Megapolis. That is going to ensure that is going to be recycled. So that's a total of 2,200.
Port City is going to have another.
There's 300 more.
Port City is going to have another project.
What's the project?
Waste to energy project.
That's part of the.
That will
plan.
be actually, it is inbuilt project in the Port City. Actually, our minister had dialogue with all these agencies, right? Even today we had a meeting, and right now this is the waste.
Right.
But
understood.
Your question is actually next one is the flats.
Yes.
We didn't think about it earlier.
So if you have not thought about it, how can you all govern a country?
We didn't think about it. Mean we actually, when it was given, now because suddenly waste project actually you can't immediately, tomorrow you can't start it. So one by one we have done. Then last month only our team, that is one Ranavaka is actually leading the project with Waste Management Authority, and everybody visited this high-rise building, vertical buildings. Now 3 sample buildings already they have identified. They are going to do the pilot project for all these 3 identified vertical, right?
Okay.
So because we have to study how
understood.
we are going to do.
Mr. Rosh, I get what you're saying. You're saying that waste management programs cannot be haphazardly brought forward.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah.
It takes time. Okay. So now you all have identified 3 apartment complexes for the project. Am I right?
Yeah.
My question is very simple to you. Why wasn't this thought of before these apartment complexes were given the clearance to build?
Yeah, that's what I am telling. Our ministry.
My question is very simple to you.
Our ministry.
You are saying that you cannot bring this haphazardly. There needs to be time. It has to have a proper system in place. Agreed.
Yes.
Then you say that you all have taken into account 3 apartment complexes.
Yes.
No issue at all. But why wasn't this thought of before giving clearance?
That's what our ministry was assigned this component, right? Only 1 year before.
Mr. It's not your fault. You've only been attached to the Megapolis ministry for a year. It's not your fault. We are not in any way trying to point the finger at you. You are a government servant. You are being paid by the government. You are just representing this show as a government official. There is no one here in this show blaming or pointing the finger at you. Very simple. But is it right? Tap your conscience. You're a citizen of this nation.
No.
Is that the way to go?
No.
You have a garbage dump next to your house. You know if this garbage dump lasts in your house, then it may have an effect on your children. You know it's going to have health effects at the end of the day. Would you ignore it or would you clean it?
Yeah, to come to that question actually now, Mitoto Mulla, that once again I have to get example as Mitoto Mulla. right? So this Mitotamulla was started, only 18 families were there, right? Now it is more than, you know that 2015 July, UDA identified this threat, right? And the UDA informed Mayor Colombo, right? And talk about this 100 houses, right? And CMC has given 500,000 rupees for 103 people. This should be actually, somewhere it should be recorded.
300,000 rupees to how many families?
500,000, because they have decided to give 15 lakhs, that is 1.5 million for each family to vacate. 103 families were identified. CMC has given, because actually it was discussed in every other week, Prime Minister's office, actually we had the discussion.
So 500,000 rupees were paid for 103 families.
500 was paid initially, and few families actually another 500 paid, but no single family was removed. Therefore, because agreement was after 1 million, they have to remove, they have to be shifted. After shifting only, a balance 500,000 rupees will be given.
The question is very simple now, Mr. Suresh. Now, you are already there in the land. The government comes and dumps garbage in your...
No, only 18 families were there.
Right, let's talk about the 80 families. Let's just talk about the 80 families. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the government's responsibility to remove these 18 families then and arrest the problem at hand?
No, actually, the valuation those days, because now just
it's 1.5 million.
Yes, you can't, because now it came up to 4 million worth of house now they are giving by the government. Those days valuation was 1.5 million, because most of the families
and out of that 1.5 million, 5,000 was paid initially, right?
They didn't have ownership of the land.
Understood.
Right? You should understand this. So, government can't spend money without any valuation. So, valuation department value the property.
Right, understood. Right? Again, I'm not challenging what you're saying. I'm saying, you say that 1.5 million was the valuation.
Yes.
And then you say only 500,000 was paid.
500,000 paid. Some families 1 million paid, but other 500,000.
But none was paid 1.5 million.
No, because agreement was after 1 million paid, they should be shifted from there.
Right, understood.
They should go. Balance will be paid later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh, for your thoughts in the first and second round. We're talking about an issue that is affecting you at home in the long run. We're going for a short commercial break, and when we come back, it's Face the Nation. Stay connected. Stay with us.